should apologize in advance also that I'll have to give my remarks and leave. We have a couple of competing events this morning, and that also accounts for why Adrian Schubert is not here, because the new Japanese Consul General to Toronto had to be welcomed to the university, so he's there and I'm here. So I would, of course, like to do an official welcome now. I met, of course, a number of you last night, but on behalf of the university, I'd like to officially welcome you to this conference on strengthening the eco-justice movement. And as you may imagine, in this particular role, I have the privilege of opening many conferences, but I'm particularly pleased to be part of this one. And I think the first reason is actually because of the topic, and the issue of climate change and the environment in general is one that, of course, touches every one of us right now, and really every day, no matter where we live. And it's really something where we individually have at least some capacity to start doing something about it before it's too late, if we have the personal will to do so. And that starts with communication and the sharing of experiences and ideas, and that's what will be happening here today and tomorrow. But the second reason is that I actually feel some special personal attachment to this particular conference, because I was present when the idea for the conference was first born, if you will. And I've been able to follow its development, and it began with a conversation between Adrian Schubert, myself, and Miriam Dualabi, who is here, in the offices of the EcoAR Institute for Citizenship in Sao Paulo last summer. And Miriam expressed the frustration that discussions about climate change and its impacts usually ignored the circumstances and needs and realities of people in developing countries. And she said it would be really wonderful to have a platform to make these concerns better known in the global north. And we talked about basically Canada and Brazil, but then thought that instead of just kind of making it bilateral and, you know, sort of your problem, my problem, back and forth like that, to broaden it out. And the way to do that was to involve other countries. And that's where the idea of involving Brazil, the original idea, but also South Africa and India came. And of course, we had absolutely no idea how to fund this. It was one of those ideas that comes up in a good conversation, and maybe Adrian and I were suffering perhaps from being half asleep because we had just come on the plane the night before, and it, you know, seemed great, but we had no idea what to do. But then, as it happens, just by serendipity, as some of these things sometimes happen, money, you know, pretty much fell out of the sky for this from Environment Canada, and Kaz Higuchi and James McClelland, who are seconded to the Faculty of Environmental Studies from Environment Canada, had some money, and it just seemed like the perfect marriage of an idea and some money, and so that's how we come to be here today. So Dawn's already spoken of it, but Adrian put together a working group consisting of the people already named who are here, Ellie Perkins, Richard Saunders over there, Martin Bunch, who I saw further back, and Dawn, to actually plan the conference. And then this also led in further discussion to the inclusion of participants from Arctic Canada, who are also here, and some additional funding from International Polar Year. So I thank everybody who's involved one way or the other with the ideas, the funding, and so on. So another important ingredient in all of this is actually York's desire to take the international seriously. There's scarcely a university in the country that doesn't talk about internationalization as being a priority. But in my, of course, totally unbiased view, York is one that has actually taken this seriously and enshrined internationalization as a true priority, one of about 5 in the university academic plan, and is taking some actual steps to try to make that priority a reality for our students, our faculty, and our staff. We, in our exchange agreements, for example, include staff in those agreements, and that's quite unusual as far as universities are concerned. And so we have partnerships and exchanges, we have various international study programs, we have language teaching, not just here on the campus, but the classes sometimes go abroad to the place where the language is spoken. We have internships, and we have a variety of other things. And this commitment has given us, I think, really a kind of strategic vision or a kind of framework to make the connections that we otherwise might have missed in a kind of glib overview of internationalization. So, for example, it's it's caused us to take South America seriously. Everybody talks about South America, especially Brazil, but nobody, I think, is really taking it as seriously as we perhaps are, and that's what led to my trip there. And following up on the established connections that we already had for one reason or another, led to ECOWAR as really one of our important partners, and that's because of your project, as a CETA project, and a host for our international interns. And then so that was kind of how we got into the Brazil part of it, and then we needed a connection from a relevant partner university in India, and that's where Jayashree Roy came in from Jadavpur University. And that was really the beginning of moving on with the organization of the conference. So also the knowledge of who's doing what at York, and that's also where the interdisciplinary committee helped, because we had better reach that way. So moving on to a couple of other topics, I'm also very pleased to announce that this conference is a carbon neutral event, and that we've included in the budget the purchase of the relevant carbon offsets. And York has agreed to then institutionalize this commitment to reducing our carbon footprint by creating an accounting category. This is how things always end up in bureaucracy, one way or the other. But we had to create an accounting category because until now we haven't had that, and that meant that the finance people weren't allowing it. So we had to have an accounting category for carbon effects. And that actually makes us a leader among Canadian universities, again, in a very small way, but perhaps an important one, in allowing people to put in for carbon offsets and reimbursements. So I want to just close my remarks with a few more thanks. I've already mentioned, of course, a number of people who've worked hard to make this conference possible, and I want to thank them again, but also the graduate assistants from IRIS, from the institute that Dawn leads, who have assisted with the organization of the conference, and that's Annette Dubreuil and Jennifer Jew. And finally, all of the hard work and the funding that has been provided, for which we're of course very grateful, especially during an economic downturn. All of that would have been for nothing if it hadn't have been for the speakers who were willing to take the time from their very busy lives to travel some huge distances to share their insights with us. And I really have to mention that we had a few panic moments over the weekend where we thought that 2 of our 3 Indian participants weren't going to be here because of visa troubles with the High Commission in Delhi. And we managed to get those visas processed even during the Easter weekend when the High Commission was actually closed. And as some people have pointed out to me, it may not be pulling rabbits out of a hat for Easter, but pulling visas out of the High Commission in Delhi on Easter is probably a greater achievement. And in a way, almost nothing short of a miracle. And the person that we would like to thank very much for that, because our conference would have been a lot less if he hadn't intervened, is the person who's the head of the visa section at the High Commission in Delhi, whose name is Dr. David Manicom. And he is, I think, an academic at heart. I think that's what did it. He has a PhD from McGill in English literature and is a published author and prize-winning poet. And I was given yesterday by somebody here at York 2 of his books. And I think I actually will read them because I'm intrigued to find out more about this person who decided to go beyond the bureaucracy and actually do something to really make this possible in a time when he probably should have been on vacation. So I think that also indicates a bit about the power of this particular conference, that people saw the importance. So unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, I won't actually be here for the discussions today and tomorrow, but I'm sure your discussions are going to be really amazing because of the group that's pulled together, but quite thought-provoking, and that the acquaintances that you can make here at this conference will turn into some ongoing relationships and activities, perhaps some joint research or joint publications, and some real solutions or real progress towards solutions to some of these really, really pressing issues. So thanks very much to everybody, and unfortunately I'm going to do something really rude, which is run away right now. Thanks.